Welcome, everybody, to today's podcast where we're going to be diving into the topic of escapism and avoidance. What we want you to walk away with from today is understanding what this is all about and ways to deal with it, ways to manage it, ways to get your time back and do more behaviors that are more aligned with what's important to you. And I am grateful to be joined by three of my colleagues. So we've got Melinda, who's our mindset coach, an applied behavior analyst, and a registered social service worker. We have Emily with nutrition as a registered holistic nutritionist. And we have Dr. Kyle, who's a naturopathic doctor. And we'll be jumping back and forth and getting a lot of good wisdom from each of these coaches and practitioners. But I just want to talk about the topic for today and why this is important and why you'll get value from today. Many of us find ourselves turning to activities like watching TV, surfing the web, endless eating, online shopping, and just scrolling through social media as a way to escape from the stressors that we have in our daily life. While these activities can offer some temporary relief, they can also lead to a cycle of avoidance that prevent us from addressing the underlying issues which is affecting our health, well-being, and overall fulfillment in life. So I'm going to pass this over to some people that know a lot more about this topic than I do and have different strategies and tips. I'm going to start off with Coach Melinda, who's going to share a little bit more of the ins and outs of exactly what escapism and avoidance is.
Thanks, Adrian. So I'm going to start with just talking about very briefly escape and avoidance. We're talking about negative reinforcement. So from a behavior analytic point of view, the science of behavior analysis, negative reinforcement is behaviors that are maintained by escape or avoidance. So that means that we, in a particular context, so under certain circumstances, so that may be a certain time of day, that could be a certain stressor that's present externally or also within ourselves, we engage in a behavior, so like some of the ones you mentioned, that allows us to escape or avoid something unpleasant. And when we do that, it's reinforcement because that pattern repeats and strengthens itself over time. So the more that we get that temporary escape in that way, the more likely we are to continue to repeat that behavior in those circumstances. I also want to point out, though, that negative reinforcement is not a bad thing or a problem. It's a very important thing, and it has helped us to survive and continues to do so. There are times when we should avoid unpleasant things, right? I'm not going to stick my hand in the fire because I'm going to avoid that situation because that's not a safe thing for me to do. And also, escaping from something unpleasant or a stressor to get a temporary break or a temporary relief can be really beneficial. It can help us recharge. It can help us be ready to take on the next thing that we have going. The challenge is some of these things that you're talking about, the TV, the social media, the binge watching, the things that we do for maybe longer than intended and start to interfere with other things. So when we do a lot of things that are maintained by negative reinforcement, what we're doing is essentially staying stuck. If that's where we're feeling that we're at, we're staying in our comfort zone. And again, although a comfort zone is not a bad thing either, it's okay to feel comfortable and to want to feel comfortable. It limits growth and change because change is inherently more difficult and uncomfortable initially for most people. So ultimately, we want to think about, is this escape or avoidance serving us, or is this interfering with us being the person that we want to be or some other goal or action that's important to us?
Beautiful. Very well said. And I appreciate you bringing in the things that don't work, but also the things that do work. Not everything is going to be bad. And they do sometimes, depending on what it is, serve a purpose, depending on the person, where they're at and their goals. And I know we'll come back to just a little more on like the psychology and the habit formation side of things. I just want to now turn it over a little bit to more of the physiological aspect instead of the psychological aspect of this topic. And I'm going to ask Coach Emily with regards to diet, right? As you being a holistic nutritionist, I know that there is a tie between diet influencing mental health or like the tendency to start to avoid things. Could you just touch on that a little bit as far as like how diet influences people in this realm of avoidance?
Sure. So when it comes to our food choices, they have a lot of impact on our body and also future choices. So for example, our blood sugar levels can be highly impacted on the foods that we eat. It could be unhealthy foods, processed foods, junk food, And when we are impacting our blood sugar in a way where it can go up and down, then that blood sugar level can start to drive our food choices. And we may not be as conscious or aware of what we're eating, because we could be putting our body in this state of where it just needs energy. And whatever is most convenient is what we're going to be gravitating towards. Other foods can impact our gut microbiome, which is affecting the health of our intestines. And so that can play a factor into our healthy choices as well. And our gut health is really important for our mental health. There is a great relationship between the two. And you might have heard about the happy hormones, or serotonin and dopamine, for example. And most of these are actually made in our gut. So what we eat impacts the health of our gut, which can impact how we feel and the choices that we make. And this is where we can get caught into a cycle of eating unhealthy foods. And this can lead to feeling not good about the food choices we get. And then we are distracted eating. And if this is a pattern for a long period of time, we can also get into the trouble of actually having nutrient deficiencies. And this is also related to mental health and only going to encourage avoiding in general.
So what I'm gathering is if someone makes some healthier food choices, right, and they just maybe improve or level up one meal a day or even 2 meals a day, and they're getting more nourishment, they're getting more protein, they're getting their veggies and different things like that, that will support them in their gut physiologically, that could impact their mood, because you talk about hormones and all that stuff. So then maybe they'll be less likely to engage in some of that avoidant behavior, right? Because maybe they'll be a bit more inspired or feel more energized.
Absolutely. And I'm sure everyone's heard of eating, eat your leafy green vegetables. There's a reason for that. They're very supportive for your brain health and overall function. But one that we can go towards if we're in a snacking mood potentially is fruit. So your berries, the very bright, colorful berries, blueberries, strawberries, and they're really helpful to support the brain function. But another thing is there's fiber in there, and they can help to satisfy that sugar feeling, that sweet feeling that you might be gravitating towards. And nuts and seeds, really good trail mix. Almonds, walnuts, flax seeds, for example, are really beneficial for brain health. They're a healthy source of protein and fat. And I would also say something like dark chocolate. So dark chocolate is a good source of magnesium. And when we feel anxious, or a lot of situations where people are having low moods, magnesium is potentially a deficiency that they could be experiencing. You could supplement magnesium, and leafy green vegetables are higher in magnesium, so that could be another source for it as well.
Okay, beauty. Yeah, and I know you talked a lot about that to clients that you've worked with. And you've really got me on magnesium and other things. I know Dr. Kyle, you touched on this as well, but vitamin D and B vitamins. You've really driven that home, that some of these are important. Okay, beautiful. And I would like to we'll just bounce around here. Dr. Kyle, I know nutrition is something you touch on, and naturopathic medicine is holistic in nature as well. And we love our holistic approach. But when it comes to working with patients, what are some other things that maybe you lean on to support people that are maybe just stressed, or they're trying to escape their stress, their job, or you name it? What are some strategies or techniques that you might suggest?
Yeah, thank you, Adrian, for that intro there too as well. Emily, I agree. Magnesium, I'm a huge fan of. I recommend that a lot to a lot of patients. Same thing with vitamin D, the B vitamins that Adrian was mentioning before. Just because a lot of us are deficient in magnesium. As a naturopathic doctor, our main goal is to get through cause of things, right? But I'll find a lot of times patients will be stressed out for various different means, whether it's their job or finances, or if they have a family, it's their kids or whatever, family, like home life, right? And it's sort of they are resorting to that escapism sort of strategies, whether it's scrolling or, like you mentioned, binge watching or whatever, just to sort of alleviate that, right? And the problem with that is that prolongs, if we're not processing what's stressing us out, it's going to lead to more burnout, right? So this can involve like hormones such as cortisol. Cortisol is it's important for a lot of things in our body, like waking us up, but it's also very important for the stress response. And it's a good thing when we are in immediate danger, but if it's in a prolonged state, that could lead to, a whole bunch of things going out of whack, like other hormones, for example, like insulin, so blood sugar, and then that can affect mood, energy, weight gain, stuff like that, right? So a lot of strategies I utilize, it could be supplements, it could be herbs, for example. There's a lot of herbs that we can utilize to help sort of support the cortisol pathway to help prevent burnout, which can happen.
Could you share one or two that would be something that you really lean on?
Of course, yeah. So as many of the viewers might know, might have heard, ashwagandha, it's a very popular adaptogenic herb that a lot of us practitioners use to help support the cortisol pathway, just because it's also very calming too as well, right? So if someone is very stressed out or they're having troubles like sleeping, it's a very good relaxing herb to help support cortisol, but as well as to help relax the mind. Or on the flip side, if you're looking for more energy, things like Korean ginseng or rhodiola again support the cortisol pathway with the adrenal glands, but they're more energizing. So there's a couple of different options there for you.
And then anything that's maybe unconventional or things that people maybe haven't heard of. I know was it the tapping as one?
Yeah. So as a naturopath, we have like a lot of tools in our tool chest, right? So a lot of things that we've learned in school as well as outside of school. So one of the things that Adrian was talking about is that I learned outside of school that through reading different books is called EFT, so Emotional Freedom Technique Tapping. It became very popular about maybe 10 years ago. There's a lot of clinical research and studies on it for the past 60 or 70 years. It's used for a lot of different things like PTSD, trauma, used in veterans, especially in the United States, used for anxiety, depression, addiction, a lot of different things. And it's very simple to learn. And it combines acupuncture point tapping, so you're tapping on your body physically, with different phrases, with cognitive, with reframing, like kind of with what Melinda was talking about, and some exposure therapy there too as well. So when you're tapping on the body, it's actually calming the nervous system down. So it actually helps to process things that we've experienced throughout the day or in the past and help diffuse the emotional intensity of it, right? Other things I use with patients are, or teach them is breath work, mindfulness meditation, or just being mindful in general. A book that I recommend would be The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That really blew my mind wide open. When I read that like a couple of years ago. It's an older book. It's from like the early 2000s, but it really opened my perspective about mindfulness and stuff like that. So definitely a good place to start there. But yeah, that's just generally a few things that I do with my patients in regards to help them, de-stress and also again process what is actually bothering them, so that way they don't have to resort to let's say unconscious or mindless escapism, essentially.
Absolutely. There's a lot of great strategies. And what I'm really getting present to is like, wow, there's so many cool things that we can start. Anybody listening might have heard of some of these things for the first time, even though it's normal for us. We're surrounded by all these strategies and solutions and you name it. That's what I want to highlight here is all these things that we're sharing. I think it's most important thing that we do at PriorityMe is we want to make it easy to start. What is one thing that we suggested so far, whether you rewind and you play back, what is one thing that's like, you know what, that's interesting. I want to try that, or that feels easy enough to try out. Right? Maybe I should have some dark chocolate or switch from milk chocolate to dark chocolate to get the magnesium, or just Google tapping or reach out to Dr. Kyle. I just want to make sure we touch on movement and exercise just a little bit. One thing that I like to do is how do we pair things with, maybe we're doing a behavior that's like, I know this isn't serving me. I know I don't like it when I do this because I do it too much. If it's scrolling, I'm just going to use it as an example because I know like there's a lot of people, there's a lot of information research saying like we're just using our phones a lot more on that screen. What if we pair that with something active, like sitting on a bike, stationary bike, walking on a treadmill with our phone or iPad in front of us? That's something I've started to do. There's so many different things that you can try out when it comes to movement. It could just be stretching, could be yoga, Tai Chi, you name it. Doing some tapping or some different things while you're standing and shaking it out. I'm just going to ask the coaches here just to consider if there's any closing thoughts or anything else that you'd want to share. Melinda, I'm going to come back to you first. Just because with the mindset, everything we've shared so far, is there anything coming up for you right now in this conversation that you think would help glue things together for people that are just like high level takeaways?
So many, and I could
so
talk
many.
about this
I
all day
know.
and then
We're trying to keep this at 30 minutes, right? And here we go.
Yes. I think I want to highlight, I want to bring up something called the choice point, because I think it's really simple and can be really powerful for people. So the choice point I first read about and I think was introduced in a book called The Weight Escape. It is a book by Dr. Russ Harris and 2 other authors whose names I can't remember right now, but we can look it up or share it later. And the choice point is essentially asking you, for decisions that you're making, are they moving you towards or in the direction of your goals and values? Or are they moving you away from your goals and values? They talk about smaller sooner versus larger later rewards. So that immediate gratification is often what we're doing with that avoidance. We get temporary relief right now. And timing is one of the most powerful factors in reinforcement and in driving behavior. And the challenge we face is a lot of times what we want takes longer to achieve, what we truly value and care about. So if you think about the choice point when you're making these decisions, ask yourself, am I acting like the person I want to be? So moving towards or in the direction of my goals, or am I not acting like the person I want to be? And am I moving away? And is there a way to take a break or use that negative reinforcement in a way that's still aligned with the type of person that I want to be? So if I want to sit and have a snack, is there a way to shift that towards a more healthy snack? If I want to take a break and shut down, what is a hobby or something that I feel good about afterwards? So with the choice point, you're thinking about your future self. And there's a fair bit of research on when you think about your future self, you tend to make choices that are more aligned with the person that you want to be. So asking yourself, how do I feel after I do this? Am I going to feel guilty and disappointed in myself, or am I going to feel refreshed and recharged and ready to take on what's next?
I love that you're tying to like the identity piece, and definitely a great recommendation to check that out. One quick question I have for you, Melinda, that came up when you're sharing that is making ourselves wrong. If we're in doing avoidance behavior or we're procrastinating, oftentimes I know I've experienced this myself. Like, oh my God, here I go again, which makes us want to avoid even more. So can you just touch on that? Like, does that plays a role, I'm assuming, as far as like getting stuck in a rut and spinning our tires when we make ourselves wrong for it?
Absolutely. And that's a whole other conversation. So what I can say right now maybe is that negative reinforcement is powerful, and everything we do for a reason. Everything we do serves us in some way. So it's not that you're making a bad choice that doesn't make any sense for you. It makes sense in a way. It just may not be aligned with what you're hoping to move towards in the future. So I would really look at that. Is there a way to make your immediate choice more reinforcing? Can you pair it with a reward of some kind if there isn't one inherent in that choice that you're trying to make? How can you align it so that it's immediately reinforcing? And when you do the escape and avoidance, that's okay. Maybe you just think about, do I set a time limit on this? Or how do I pair this with something else? Or check in on how you're feeling afterwards. And it's not that you made a bad or wrong choice. It's just, I keep making this choice and this is how I feel afterwards. And I don't think the guilt and shame and all that is helpful. I think it is helpful to recognize and just realize I made that choice and understand why, and then think about how you'd like to address it. So really understanding the function and why you're doing it, rather than trying to pretend that was a bad choice. It didn't make any sense. Why did I do that?
Yeah.
And getting caught up in all that self-talk. There is a reason for it. There is a reason you did. And recognize that and acknowledge it, and it's okay. And then see what you can do to kind of meet that similar need in a way that's more towards or in line with your values.
I would love to piggyback off that for mindful eating,
Emily.
if I could. So choosing a healthy snack over an unhealthy snack is, sometimes the best, but it's not always realistic. So I love to share with clients to have a snack with intention. So if we're going to have naughty treats or, chips or popcorn, for example, have it with intention. I think we can all relate to having a bowl or a bag and then you're watching a show and you reach the bottom of the bag and you have no idea how you did that. And we didn't even really remember crunching it or tasting it. So having treats with intention is really helpful, and really enjoying and taking the time to enjoy if we are having a treat, which I like to use
right?
as you're making that choice. You chose to buy it, buy with intention, and then eat with intention. And mindful eating is a really great way to avoid the escapism. Just being really aware. There's many different ways that you can do mindful eating. One of my favorite ways that I think works for many people, because you can do this in public, you can do it at work, and no one really knows you're doing it, is before you even put the first bite of food in your mouth, imagine in your mind that you're eating it. And you're going to get your mouth to start salivating, and then you're going to help yourself to be more in that moment. And that's the first step. And then really think about how it's feeling in your mouth, the taste, and enjoying those flavors. And after you eat, I really like to encourage my clients to really think about, how do you feel after? Do you feel satisfied? Is this something that you want to eat more of? Is it maybe something you should only have once in a while? And that can be really helpful. And 2 books I just wanted to really mention on this topic is The Craving Cure by Julia Ross is an excellent book. And there's one called Woman, Food, and Desire, and that's by Alexandra Jameson. And she touches on emotional eating and also nutritional reasons we might have cravings. So those are two really great books on that topic.
Thanks for the recommendations. I know those are like tied into nutrition, and a great suggestion as far as just the mindful eating and being in that moment. And that's a great tie-in with the book that Dr. Kyle recommended, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Right, that's what I'm really getting present to right now is being in the moment and being aware. And Melinda, you were saying as far as the awareness and just like looking at, okay, what can we do differently? It's the curiosity. If we're in the moment, we're just like, oh, that's interesting. Wow, I keep doing this. We're like, oh, this is how I feel, and this is what I've done. We can solve it ourselves. It's great to have support from coaches like us to help do that and have a guide. But having that, just that curiosity and reflecting, we can actually figure out a lot on our own. And Dr. Kyle, I just want to see if there's any final words or things that come up on the topic.
Sure. Yeah. So the idea of supplements and herbs, they're there to help aid us. So I don't want anyone to necessarily rely on anything, including like supplements and herbs, but they are there to help support you, while you're going through your challenges, right? So, they're not the magic bullet. I would say from personal experience, as well as working with patients, the way forward is honestly mindfulness. That's I find is like the biggest mover in regards to helping with form good habits, to help break the cycle of escapism. And it's just the idea of being present in the exact moment that you're in right now. So going back to what Emily was talking about with the intention, like intentional eating, right? Focusing on the flavor, is how does the texture feel, being present with the food. And then sort of like what Melinda was talking about with being aware of the identity that you want to be going forward. So I honestly, again, there are tools that you can use to help support you during this process, but I think it comes down to, and it's not that difficult too, right? Like we think it's difficult in this day and age to be present because we're so used to being distracted by all these different stimuli and having like that dopamine saturation, whether it's with like social media, on your phone, gaming, or whatever, all these different distractions, right? But it's not that difficult to sort of sit there and sort of be still for a bit, whether it's listening to the sounds around you or feeling your breath or being present with your food or just being present with people around you, right? Whether it's your family or whatever, right? Your friends. That's I guess my take on that. I think our society could use a really good dose of mindfulness, to be honest with you, because there are other cultures out there that who have understood this for like thousands of years, and mental health tends to be a bit better when it comes to that. So I think like the West could definitely learn a lot from that. So
love that. Thank you so much for sharing. As far as like the distractions, you're right. Like we do have power. We don't have to be the victims or the effect of everything that's going on around us and our environment. We have a choice in the matter. We can always choose. And I'll drop a book here to everybody's big book list for, just put that in your Amazon checkout cart, pick one at a time. But Indistractable is a great book. I highly suggest Indistractable because we can take back control of our lives and our attention. But we'll leave it there just so there's enough, hopefully everybody can take away from today around this whole topic of avoidance and escapism. And just know, we want you to walk away knowing that you're not alone. Completely normal to have that happen. So no need to make ourselves wrong. It's just to notice it now and identify it. And hopefully you take away one or two different strategies, solutions, and you can start to be more curious and mindful of what's happening, and then take some different actions that are going to align with the type of person that you're committed to being, your identity, a life that you really want to live, and just take that control back. And that's what we're all about. With PriorityMe, putting yourself first, Just put yourself first and get the support. And we want to support you. If it's from a mindset standpoint, a naturopathic standpoint, a nutrition standpoint, exercise standpoint, we want to support you. So we'll have links that will give you access to PriorityMe as a whole, because we do work collaboratively as a team, and also individually. We would be happy to support, but just take one small first step in the right direction. And awareness could be that from today's podcast. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Kyle, Emily, and Melinda for being a part of this. And we look forward to doing our next recording on a different topic. And we look forward to having you join in and checking that out. So thank you, gang, and we'll see you later.